let me say this. Is there a double standard? Yeah, of course there's a double standard. Of course there's a double standard. Just as there's been a double standard in American life for black people, starting with the Middle Passage onto slavery, that was a double standard. Jim Crow was a double standard. Segregation was a double standard. Discrimination in housing, hiring, school, education, all those were double standards. There is a presumption when you're watching a post-game presser, I think, that that's suitable for a general audience. And as a father of 3 young girls who hopes to get them involved, at least interested, I'm trying, in the NBA, someone to watch the games with, I would hope that I could sit them down and we could watch the post-game presser together. And this kind of language is not suitable for a general audience, particularly for children, and this is family entertainment. So do I think it was good, or am I happy that he used it? No. But is there a double standard, and is that okay? Yes.
It's not my place, really, to say who should and should not use this word, to define when and when it is not appropriate. Obviously, there's a double standard, Max, and I'm with you. I'm okay with that. This isn't a pursuit of fairness in who can say what. If your point as an adult is, if one person can say it, why can't I? You're intentionally avoiding all of the historical and intellectual baggage and nuance that goes into understanding, as Michael Wilbon said, the context of the usage of the word. It's curious, it's open, I don't know. I live in New York City. It's a very diverse community. My family and I live in a very diverse part of New York City. When my kids, 5 and 9 years old, get on the subway and hear that word used, almost always in a friendly way, not in a pejorative way. I don't know that my kids have ever heard it used in the pejorative. They've only ever heard it used in the amicable way, right? But it still makes you cringe. And I still wonder, how do you explain to a 5 or 9-year-old it's a bad word? He's not using it as a bad word. You can't use it. He can use it. When you reduce things sometimes into the eyes of a child, it gets very difficult to explain what seems like something adults should get their heads around. And sometimes a childlike view, I think, is worth looking at something to its core.
I appreciate both y'all perspectives. Y'all are not wrong about anything that you said. Obviously, when you think about a child shouldn't hear that word. But for every white person, Jewish person, Hispanic, anybody else that hears that word and they point to children, I would ask you to consider the black child that has been called that word and how does it make them feel? Because when that word is called to them, particularly by somebody outside of their race, it has very iniquitous and insidious connotations attached to it. So just imagine how that makes the child feel. This is something that black folks have alluded to for centuries in terms of the residual impact that it has had on our community. To get directly to the point about Sage, Wilbon, Jalen Rose, those two dudes are my brothers. I love them dearly. Sage is my sister. I love her dearly. I side with Jalen and Michael Wilbon, and I completely disagree with Sage Steele. And here's where I disagree with her. She talks about the hypocrisy of it all. No, Iguodala has no business using that word while the cameras are rolling. Iguodala has no business using those words when you know the camera is on you and the message is going to be disseminated to the masses. But what I took from what Sage was saying was that even amongst ourselves, it's not something that should ever be echoed and should ever be used, and we would be hypocritical even if we're using it then. My response is that you can't compare that, a black culture, that the word has meant so much in such insidious terms to us. And somehow, some way, we found a way to deal with it, communicating with ourselves, all right, in a fashion that's not vicious, that's not insidious or malicious or anything like that. And that's the way to communicate. And somebody outside of our race is going to try to define for us how wrong it is. Right here on this show, when I got into a beef with John Wooten, who works for the NFL, I highly respect the man. My issue with him was not his willingness, his devotion towards eradicating the word. It was giving the NFL, a white power structure, the power to punish those within the black community who would use the word.
Right.
It resonated with me because I'm saying, wait a minute, if you are the ones who made the word so vicious and so malicious to a race of people, how do you get to turn around after that and decide that we can be punished for talking amongst ourselves, not on the airwaves or anything like that, but I'm just saying amongst ourselves, I have a problem with that. And I'm just going to speak for myself and most black people I know. No matter how we feel about the word itself, we don't want to hear white America tell us what words we can and cannot use amongst ourselves.
If you're African American, you want to use the word, go for it. It's your prerogative. If you're not, you can't. And that's just what I would teach my children, the same thing.
Well, the other thing that you could say is simply this. There are white folks there are some white folks, not most, not all, but some white folks who would ask the question, well, you could use it, why can't we?
Because you can't.
You know what my response?
Just you
But
can't.
not only that, but this is my retort to them. I got a couple of spots, a couple of hoods that you could go to in L.A., in Chicago, and New York. Why don't you go there and ask them? Because you know better. In other words, I'm challenging them because I'm saying deep in your core, you know better. Don't ask a question. It's a rhetorical question. You know the answer to that. You just want to act like you don't because you want the license to do what you want to do. I find that the word it's as insidious as it is. It wasn't that way to us when we were communicating with ourselves, but because others have invaded the proceedings per se and have now used it as a license to try and use it themselves, I side with Jalen in terms of saying, okay, we got to pump the brakes because this is getting out of hand, but we never used it consciously. It's not like you're talking. It's almost like cussing, for crying out loud. It's not like you're just planning on saying the F word or the MF word or whatever. It's just something that comes out of your mouth.
I'm Max Kellerman. Thanks for stopping by. Before you go, hit the button below to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a moment of me taking down Stephen A. Smith.